now. Hey,
I think, money's out there for that kind of stuff. And we may have to wait till this matures, but at least kind of start doing a little planning. So again, I was thinking of just putting out a survey, getting input from people, how many, where, what locations and stuff like that.
We can't make that decision here, so.
Well, no, we're not making a decision, but I can put out a survey and.
Well, surveys go out, they're expensive. Mailing and all.
Oh, no, I'm just talking a survey to the town board and key employees.
Oh.
Like parks and gym. I don't know, just an idea to kind of lean forward on that. I don't think we need to ask the town.
Well, something that could be circulated by
email
or something like that. It wouldn't hurt to start putting something together like that. I don't know in the area here how many of those charging stations the city's got one by the Chamber of Commerce building. I don't know if there are any others than that.
Yeah, but I think we need to start looking that way. How long it's gonna be? Some of the manufacturers are going 100% electric.
Yeah.
We can't wait until, I don't think we wanna wait.
2035, they have to.
I don't think we wanna wait until that happens. So I'm just talking about.
What do you think those people who were stuck on I-95 in Virginia a couple of weeks ago with electric cars traded them in by now?
I think they're still in there, still out there.
Well, were you thinking about surveying private businesses for private business locations or just within town properties?
No, just within town property.
I'll see what kind of a survey you put together.
Yeah.
We'll decide.
Yeah, if you don't like the idea, I just, I don't really need to build a lot of extra work for myself, but if you think that's a good step forward, so, we're gonna want some, I think, at the mountain, we're gonna want some here, we're gonna want some at town hall. I'm just thinking, but we could pick everybody's brain and at least think about it. What do you think, Tim? You think that's flailing in the wind or what?
Yeah, I never see electric vehicle ever here or anywhere. It's just they're Teslas. They drive around, but I don't really see a great need for a charging station.
Pretty soon there's gonna be Ford trucks, GM trucks. No.
Well, I know that Doug can comment maybe that Randy Farnsworth has said that he has to put in a bank of charging stations in his place up here on 332.
Yeah.
Because they're, going to be rolling out more vehicles. So he's doing that, but I don't know if there's, Rod, have you seen any in your travels and in your experience, anybody looking into that question at all?
So the idea of the fleet electrification, in particular around charging station infrastructure, is definitely something that's picking up interest in our area. I actually recently connected with an organization that might be a good tool to consider as you're looking at this particular idea. Value Stack Energy provides a service that helps municipalities prepare grant applications and essentially set up an infrastructure for EV vehicles that isn't just designed to work in the present. It's designed to have additional capacity to support growth moving forward. We've had a couple really interesting meetings with them, and if you guys were looking at something a little bit more comprehensive, they might be a good option because they'll leverage any ZEV funding or state incentives or any rebates that are available and kind of walk the municipality through the process from start to finish. So that's, as I'm kind of hearing the discussion about, where we want to put these, they'll come in and do a free consultation and walk through the community to maybe help you guys identify some good spots. But, the concern about availability and the concern about lead time on some of this technology is very real. In terms of grant funding, we're hoping by the end of March, beginning of April, to have some clarity on more programs that are going to be coming available based on the state infrastructure and the federal infrastructure money that's coming down. So once we have that information and we know what those programs are going to look like, we're going to reach out to all the communities in our region and share that information and try and help them access as much of that as they can.
In the city of Canandaigua, do they have, well, I know they have one, but I don't know Are you familiar with any others that?
Yeah, so the city has the one right now by the Chamber of Commerce. But John recently submitted a grant application to get several others installed, larger ones with like a solar overhang that are going to be solar powered, because of the fact that they're going to be electrifying their fleet pretty aggressively. They're getting 2 code enforcement cars that are going to be electric, and they're also going to electrify everything on F-150 and down. So they're going to look to do this pretty aggressively and use some of the grant money that they've gotten through the CEC program thus far to offset the cost of doing some of that transition.
Well, aggressively, Rob, it's 2 years right now before Ford will even take an order on.
Yeah, aggressively in terms of planning aggressively, I think is probably the right way to say it, because you're correct.
Okay, right now.
The lead times on these vehicles is growing by the day.
Well, maybe I can just draft something up, I'll float it to you guys and,
Sure.
you know, see what you think. And I'm just trying to look forward, because I think it's gonna come, either we kind of
Yeah.
embrace it or it runs over us.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it also, you know, when you plug your car in, you've got to leave them plugged in for at least 15 minutes, so it's good to have them in commercial areas too.
Yeah.
Because it can actually expand people's buying power and what have you, while they're sitting waiting for their car to charge, so.
Well, in our town, probably the uptown area.
Yeah. I was thinking Blue Heron
Yeah,
Park.
our
would be great,
commercial
so.
center, you know, so that's probably where, and as that grows, I would think that people.
There's also a lot of small communities across the state that have found the installation of these charging stations creates economic development opportunities for the exact reason that was just mentioned. You know, if people know that there are charging stations available with electric vehicles, they will come to these communities, sometimes in droves, and shop and eat and stay overnight and spend money while their cars are charging. So you know, some of the smaller communities in rural areas who have installed a couple of these stations have seen greater traffic, especially on the weekends when there's availability to have shopping.
If you have a Tesla, you just put a thing into your car that says, where's the next charging station, and it maps you right to it, and you just go right
Yep.
to the closest available charging station.
When we recently did our DRI application, the LDC did on behalf of the city and town, there was actually a whole supplemental section on electric vehicle charging stations, primarily focused on uptown 3 and 4 locations. The other thing is, I know the county clerk has data relative to the number of electric vehicles registered in Ontario County and specifically in the town of Canandaigua, and the number would actually surprise you. It's hundreds of vehicles that are registered in the town of Canandaigua that are electric vehicles. So, but uptowns for sure in some of our locations. And so some of that work we've already done. So, but you know, this whole thing and working with Rob, I would think that we would continue that path and continue to look at those. So.
Wasn't there discussion about putting one in at Motion Junction as well?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the town of Canandaigua residents that are going to be using this.
No.
It's going to be tourists essentially and travelers, because if you live here, you've got a charger at home, so.
I would think the city would have more locations than perhaps we would for them, you know, from the northern boundary of the city down to the lakefront and, you know, to the east. And, I don't know, they're, well, you said, Rob, you're looking into that more, so.
Yeah, John wrote a grant for a couple that are, I think there's going to be one at City Hall, and I cannot remember where he said the other one was going to be. But they're also they're also interested in expanding that infrastructure. I think they're also kind of waiting to see what state rebates become available or what federal rebates become available when that sifts out. We have a lot of municipalities right now that are kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for this funding to become available again. So that's one reason why the value stack option might be a good one, because you know they would essentially prepare a project for you that was completely outlined with the letter of benefit from the public utility, so that when you guys were ready to apply and those application windows became open, you would have your project ready to go and you could get it in immediately, so that you would have a much greater chance of accessing the funding that's available. My concern is that what becomes available could go very quickly. We had 3 communities in our region alone that found out that Charge Ready was exhausted when they submitted applications and were told there was no more money. And they went through the last 3,000, or sorry, the last 3 million of the Charge Ready program in less than a day. So if you have municipalities that are doing large bulk installations, that money can go fast, and that's why you know, I'm encouraging communities not, you know, necessarily to talk to Value Stack, but to start to think, you know, proactively about where you might want to put these charging stations, and thinking proactively about the application process, so that when that opens, you can be one of the first to the table.
Do you have any idea what the cost is for I mean, there's factors that would influence that cost, certainly, but the station itself, I mean, are they $100,000, are they $10,000, are they?
So it would vary really based on what you wanted to install, the level of technology, the speed of charging that you wanted to install, the number of ports you wanted to have. When we did the one in the city in, I think it was 2017 or 18, it was 17, the cost to the city, had they not had Charge Ready funding, which covered all of it, I think would have been about $8,000, something along those lines. You know, you can obviously purchase something that's a little more powerful and is going to charge vehicles quicker, and there is some benefit to that, but it really would depend on what you wanted to install and what you felt like the needs of the community were.
Rob, when you say 8,000, is that just the unit itself, not the actual electric ran to power it?
I missed the last part of what you said. I'm sorry.
The 8,000 per unit. How much does that include the electric ran to the pedestal to power?
So it would really depend on where you put it. There could be an additional cost if you needed to run conduit to that location. That is the one funding stream that is available right now in New York. Is called the Make Ready program, which covers any of the infrastructure costs to essentially prepare whatever site that you'd want to put that charging station on, to just accept the charging station and be ready to go. And that's one of the funding streams that Value Stack utilizes to help offset the cost of these projects for communities.
Will they come out and review the current load on your electrical system to see if you can install one?
Yeah, it would be part of their walkthrough with the community. They would look at the potential locations that you're interested in installing them in. They might suggest other ones based on the availability of power, because they're going to want to try and keep the cost down and make it as efficient for you as possible. So, you know, if there's a spot that you're looking at and there's a spot that's close to it, you know, that only requires 50 feet of conduit, but the spot you're looking at requires 300 feet of conduit, it's going to be more expensive to do option B than option A. So they kind of help you determine where some of the best placing for these would be based on available electric and the locations that you're trying to put them in.
And you also said some of them are solar powered as well, right?
Those are the ones that John applied for, and they're actually very cool. They have like a large overhang that goes over where both vehicles are, and it pulls in solar power to power the machine. Those are a little bit more expensive, but those are always an option, and would, you know, in most cases prevent you from having to do some of the additional infrastructure work.
But you can only use them during the time the sun's shining.
No, there's battery storage.
Uh,
You just gotta have them facing south. That's all.
Okay. I was wondering how they did that one.
Yeah, just like your signs out there, you know, big solar array and battery setup, you know.
I saw one of these charging stations with a diesel generator next to it.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, yeah, run the gas.
Get the irony.
Yeah,
Some
I
of
get
the technology that they use to charge the like the larger vehicles, like public buses and dump trucks, is really cool. They're like they're almost like server stacks, and you stack them on top of each other based on the kilowatt hours needed to charge that vehicle, and they can be moved around. They're completely portable. It's wild. The technology behind the EV stuff is getting really cool, and it's getting really advanced, and it's making it cheaper as they continue to find these advancements. So it's exciting, at least in my neck of the woods and in my sector, to see a lot of these advancements. I can't say the same for the fossil fuel industry.
You heard anything like some of the businesses in Canandaigua, like the lake house, you know, the new hotel on the lake, have they installed any there? I mean, I would think that would be a logical.
I believe they did. The difference between those is that those aren't going to be open to the public. I believe those are only for hotel guests.
Yeah, but I mean, that's tourism, that's, you know, I mean.
Yeah.
I was in Salamanca last summer, we pulled in a McDonald's just off Route 17 or whatever it's called now. And there is a bank of about a dozen, you know, along one side of the parking lot of charging stations, you know, they're all lined up like soldiers. It seemed like some of the businesses would be, I mean, we're talking about uptown, I mean, that's what we're talking about, is, you know, the commercial side of it. But where they be located at this point, we don't really know what's going to happen in uptown, so
Well,
it's difficult to pick a spot.
Blue Heron for now, I mean, would probably work. So,
Well, I'm talking about commercial. I don't want to see the town sponsor it, maybe 1 year. I don't think the town should sponsor anything. I don't think we want to be in the business of managing something like that. My opinion, you know, let the private sector take care of it. You know, help guide them to where they would go, but why should the town be involved and have to maintain something like that? We already have enough infrastructure to maintain, so.
well, isn't that what you were indicating, that it would allow us to apply for more grants and things like that if we had towns on charging stations? Isn't that what we've been talking about?
I'm not in favor of that at all. Let somebody else go, let private sector take it. You know?
Well, the main thing I
Help them
was
with grant
referring
money,
to
but, you
is
know.
for our own town.
Well, yeah,
facility.
here or at,
The parks.
you know, some of the, maybe at our park just for our customers, but make it a commercial venture out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
That.
This is, you know,
It's too far from me.
Rob, are there any programs where, like private, companies lease space at something like a park to put a charging station where they maintain it, but it's on town property?
I can look into that. That's a good question. I know in other communities where there is like a shopping center or something along those lines, and it's considered private property, that those communities have sometimes just put them in the right of way, because the other potential benefit to this is, depending on how you guys want to set up payment for this, there could be the potential for the town to maybe earn some revenue as you guys have people charge your vehicles. Whereas if you're leasing the space and having somebody else come in and do it, those benefits would kind of go to them, other than the fact that they're leasing on your space. But I'll look into that, and I'll see what examples of out there, or see if there's any really good examples of public-private partnerships around these, and then anything I get, I'll send over to you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on this? Or?
Yeah, one thing I have, I assume that the town board, after Rob's presentation, will be as excited about this program as we are. And I guess the next question they will have, and we should be thinking about, is the implementation and any type of enabling legislation that's required to establish the programs. And certainly we've talked about having Caitlin as the coordinator on the Climate Smart Communities program. I guess that we don't necessarily have to have it for the 16th, but I think that's something we should be putting together so that the town board will know what kind of obligations are ahead.
Let's see what happens on the 16th.
Well, and that's something that Doug mentioned earlier. There has been some resolutions that
Yeah.
have been passed as far as declaring us a climate smart community. So it sounds like Doug and Rob and I will work to make sure that we can kind of get everybody caught up to speed on what's been done so far, what the next steps are, and Rob can kind of talk about what the program is.
Good, good. I just want to keep the program moving, that's all.
Me too, Chuck.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to answer questions and interact, and I look forward to speaking to you on the 16th.
Yeah,
So,
16th,
see you,
Rob.
Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Have a great
Thanks.
weekend.
Thanks, Rob.
Or-
Go Bills.
All right, transfer station planning, discussion, hours of operation. We had, last summer when the budget was being put together, we put in another full-time person for our transfer station, and meeting on Monday night, we approved the, all the positions for the year and what the pay rates were for those positions, and this was one of them, so the town board has approved that addition. How we do it, when we do it, and what we do with hours of operation is a question. How you integrate another full-time person in. Caitlin put together this spreadsheet here showing some of the towns around the area, what they're doing, you know, the number of people they have, you know, available to work their transfer stations. And we talked about this 2 days ago when we were putting together the agenda, and it's a bit complicated. I mean, how you fit somebody in and how you do it, you know.
Yeah, so
No.
it's quite long.
Oh.
Terry, you want me to run down some of
Yeah,
the
if you could
information
just-
before we
yeah,
dive
sure.
in here? So I just chose towns that are fairly similar in size to us. Even South Bristol isn't super comparable because they're quite a bit smaller. But they do have some similar programs, so I put them on there. So here we have the estimated number of households that's using the transfer station, and then the total number of hours they're open. So these two here specifically, I think are really interesting. So if you look at the households per hour, now obviously we know not everybody is perfectly spaced out, but we are significantly higher as far as the number of households divided by the hours that we're open than any of the other transfer stations. We're really over double of most of them. So I think that that's really interesting. But then when you come over here, now I am missing some information. I do not know how many employees Gorham and South Bristol have. But we have more employees than the other transfer stations do. So I think those two figures are kind of interesting, that we're having a lot of people in a short amount of time, but we do have a lot of employees. So then the rest of this chart kind of breaks down the hours and per day that the different transfer stations are open, and then the employee information that I've had is filled in.
So Victor has one full-time person, the rest are part-time people. And that one full-time person basically runs trash. It's the landfill. But their hours are also Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
They're much more, you know, lengthy than ours.
Yeah, they're open 30 to 34 hours per week, whereas we're open 12. And Victor's really the most similar as far as size goes. They're really the most on par with us.
What's up with Tuesday? Nobody's open on Tuesday.
Nobody wants to be open on Tuesday. I also thought that it was very interesting. You know, obviously everybody's open Saturday, but very few places are open on Sundays. I kind of thought that that was interesting.
And that could be, Tuesday could be the day that Victor and Manchester haul to the landfill because their containers are full from Saturday and Monday. Or we have to haul all day Wednesday and all day Thursday, just be ready for Saturday and Sunday. And sometimes we run into situations where the landfill is moving.
There's
Yeah.
congestion.
Well, they're filling a new, how do they call it?
So,
Cell,
Cell.
thank you. A new cell, and then there are days where Todd will sit there for 2 or 3 hours at a time.
That's what I'm wondering, are there days that are more congested than others there, do we
I don't
know?
have a good answer for that.
Yeah.
I
I
think
don't
it's
know it.
all, they're not open on the weekends, it's only Monday through Friday, and I think most every day is really quite busy.
So Monday's probably extra tough, I would imagine, that if they're not open on the weekend.
It's possible, and like I said, I don't repeat, but sometimes there's just so many people coming to the landfill.
Mhm.
They're just waiting in line to unload, but because they have to do it a certain way, or they can't get to it.
Yeah.
Or a
whatever.
truck gets
Depends
stuck,
on
Truck
or
gets stuck.
somebody's got a flat tire, or.
So we don't have enough containers. When I say containers, I'm talking the square.
Yeah.
Solid ones, not the open top ones, to go for more than a weekend.
So you go once a week, or now,
Twice.
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 Okay.
Wednesday and Thursday, we haul trash.
So they're
More than
all,
one trip, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you go
those 2 days.
as.
Wednesdays, they haul the waste from the weekend,
Okay.
and then Wednesday night, they're
They're
open,
open, they
they
do
fill,
Thursdays,
and then
yeah.
Thursday, they get rid of Wednesday's waste, so we're fully empty for the weekend.
Weekends.
Todd stays off of what, Friday and,
That's
Monday,
a-
Tuesday,
Monday,
Monday,
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Friday. He works Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday.
So nobody's working Monday and Tuesday. Okay.
Not hauling
Not yet.
trash.
Yeah.
it's unusual, you know, in Victor, they're open from, was it 7 to 11? Or
Right.
7 to 3:30 in the winter. Just seems odd to me, open Monday, you know, people are going to work generally. people work.
Gorham also has a weekday, 7 to 11.
Yeah.
I assume that's morning, not evening.
Yes.
Yes.
7 to 3:30 in the winter,
So with,
full day.
as I was mentioning to Terry, I know we have budgeted another full-time person, but only one person can drive that truck on off days. So, and then I'm not, it's something we can't do other things with them like we do with Todd for snow plowing. I'm just not sure. I don't know if 2 full-times answer the way our current hours are set up. So we have to adjust our hours to allow more time, so there may possibly, hopefully be less people here. But the other thing we have to deal with is one day a week, as the transfer station is open on Wednesday. Normally, we haven't got to worry too much about the traffic coming in, but if we're open Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, those people are working, say between 7 and 11. Those folks are also working when we're working. So the guys may come out of the salt barn and there could be somebody there, or try to get stone from down below, and who knows where somebody pops out.
What about longer on Saturday? It looks like a lot of these have longer days on Saturday. Could we do a longer Saturday and longer Sunday?
I want to get rid of Sunday altogether.
Oh, please don't do that.
I think Sunday hours are not necessary by going more during the week. So,
We need Sunday in our house.
well, you just need a change for everybody. I mean, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Monday, Thursday, Saturday.
I'd
So-
rather see an extension on Sunday so that people that are going to church can still do it after church personally.
Come on
But
Saturday.
you come on Saturday,
Well, we don't always have that available.
then you have one day
Okay,
on
next
Thursday.
That's why I like having both weekend days as an option.
Well, I'm not in favor of having somebody work every weekend. I think you need a day off on the weekend to have your own stuff to get done.
Yeah.
And by putting the hours Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that, to even it out, and then give yourself maybe longer on Saturday. But I would like to see Sunday off.
The other thing with Saturdays is we have the city that uses the transfer station in the afternoons, 2 Saturdays a week.
Also, I mean, the other thing that seems a little odd to me is if we just hired a new employee and then we take one of the existing days away, that seems a little odd.
Well, we haven't hired
We haven't
anybody
hired
yet.
anybody.
So, well, we approved to hire everyone, so.
Well, that would be.
Well, we budgeted, we haven't approved to hire anybody yet. Okay, I mean, when you're using words, I mean, we just budgeted for
We
someone.
budgeted for a new employee,
Right.
we're talking about expanding hours, I don't see why we would take away an existing hours.
Yeah, I hate to go against the grain, but I think Sunday's a good idea, just because that's when you do work around your hours, you do stuff. And you have 2 days to bring stuff over, bring trash over, but you gotta balance it all, but I kind of like the Sunday idea.
Well, up to the town board, once we come up with something to make the decision, so. If we have a decision.
But regardless, Jim, if you add a throw day, you gotta add a holiday, right?
Right, well, so that's another thing that we need to look at is adding additional containers, because I'll use holidays, for example. We always, like
Yeah,
Christmas, we
Christmas,
never,
right.
we use every container we have
Right.
to take the trash. And we don't necessarily concern ourselves on what's going in and out of those bins. It's just get them in, get them out.
Right.
So it's, and then we also have a lot more staff on those days in order to handle the 6 lanes of traffic that are coming through, which is something else that needs to be addressed. Personally, I would like, I know we don't know what's going on with the county, but I think maybe it's time that we just make our own decisions and we just start looking forward to building our own facility on the property we purchased and just get it done. We work with the city to get it done, so they have hours also other than just one Saturday afternoon.
So that's one of the advantages Victor has. They're not, their collection site transfer station is located as where you have that conflict between trucks in and out.
So all of these other towns listed, none of those facilities impact highway operations. They're all set up so that any hours they're open, it's not impacting any highway operations, which is very different from ours.
Yeah, it gives them a lot more flexibility than we have.
Exactly.
The opening during the daytime here, from anytime 6 o'clock till 4 o'clock, you're in conflict any day of the week.
Even on weekends, like on
If it's
the day
snowing
after
or-
New Year's Day, we couldn't get a truck out because everybody had everything full. So, it frustrates me to no end, the transfer station.
well, we know what your solution is.
Yeah, let's get rid of it. It's a lot of money to operate
Well,
and
no, no.
maintain.
I don't know that, we could spend, and we have, past few years, spent many, many hours talking about transfer station. I expect to solve it today, but you do have a person in mind that could potentially be a new hire. And we've talked about working that person in maybe on a part-time basis.
Right.
Over the next, we're gonna be. Our full-time guy might not be here for a period of time.
Correct.
And so it might be a good opportunity to bring the person in part-time to get them acquainted with landfill,
Mhm.
hauling out there. That's your area. You gotta decide that.
Right. I know that.
I think that would be a good move to make, to, get the person acquainted with the system and think about how you could expand hours with another person, or how this mechanism would work.
So if the group of people here, if you had to choose another day and time or days and half days, what sounds good to everybody here in this room? If we're going to expand the hours.
My suggestion would be Fridays, because in the summertime, the guys don't work on Fridays. So it would only be half of the year where expanded hours on a Friday would be impacting highway operations.
That's a good possibility, but then we're going to have to look at getting additional containers, because we can't go 3 days in a row with our current container system.
My preference would be, as a user of the system, longer hours on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, you got conflict with the city on Saturday.
conflict with the city on Saturday. So we're all gonna be open till noon on Saturday.
So then I would say 7 to 2 on Sunday.
We have, and it's only once in a while, we do longer hours, even when we advertise them. It doesn't necessarily, people, it's not that we can't do, I'm just like, like, they're so used to noon, and after that, even though we have extra
would take-
people.
It would take time.
Take time.
I mean, definitely a one-off thing like the holiday weekend. It's just like the banks, people don't, when they change their hours, it takes them a few months to figure it out, so.
But besides the weekends, what else? And Wednesday, is there anything else other times? I know we mentioned Friday, but
This makes me wonder if the landfill's not busy on Tuesdays because no one else is going on Tuesdays.
Well, probably it's very busy because
Well, it's very busy.
everybody's home.
Yeah,
you know,
that's what I'm
nobody's,
like, I don't know.
You're busy.
So,
Yeah, but they're pretty busy everywhere.
Yeah,
Because it's not just Ontario County.
Yes, I
Residents
know,
are
yeah.
using it either.
The Monday hours could fascinate me. I mean, they're not open on Sunday, so they're open on Monday, but how busy are they? Is there a way we could find out how busy, like Victor is on Monday? If we gave up Sunday for Monday, for instance, I mean, how busy are these people on Monday? It just seems to me that, and not everybody works Monday through Friday, but a lot of people do.
what might help that 7 to 11, our age demographics are getting older, empty nesters here. They have time. A lot of people show up at 3 and just sit up there because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
something to do.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe if you were to alleviate that one Wednesday to do it during the week, that's from 7 to 11, it might move some of those people to the morning of a Monday. I don't know, I'm just talking
I'm
out
just
loud.
curious, because it just strikes me as that.
Well, if you really wanna open more on during the week, I'd say something like a Wednesday, Thursday. I'd stay away from Monday, stay away from Friday, so that don't leave you a whole lot in between, so it's something like a Wednesday, Thursday, but I'm a proponent of the weekend for it, kind of too, so.
That's just, I understand the Saturday and Sunday thing, I just was thinking it'd be nice if we had a day of the weekend off, that they can do stuff also.
Do we know how many participants we have on Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday by each day?
No, we don't, and actually Caitlin asked me that question, and
Can you
Dude.
take a guess?
chairs, we can't use a tube counter to put a counter out there, so.
We tried a couple times, we borrowed some technology to do counts and we just could never get it to work.
Right.
So we've tried to get that data, but unfortunately we don't have it.
So I don't know if you could, particularly if you like bring on another person, if you can come up with some rotational system, so people get every weekend off. We do that on ski patrol. You don't patrol every weekend, you patrol every other weekend, so.
Yeah.
If we have enough people and you do part-time basis, some of these people, then you could rotate them through so they maybe get something. I see what you're saying, but it's, I think you gotta serve the purpose first, and then you gotta fit the people to serve the purpose, and they gotta understand the rules when they get employed,
I would agree.
I don't disagree with that, Al.
Well, that's, Todd's, is the guy that's been the permanent guy out there. To my knowledge, and I complained about working Saturdays and Sundays, but if we added another full-time person, we'd be able to haul more often during the week. Because you got 2 people that have CDLs and they're all out to the landfill, so it's coming up with how else do you utilize it, like expand the hours and use them to all that's being generated in a sense.
This issue is so similar to some of our other issues that really pertains to succession planning. And when you're reliant on one person and there's no support for whether that person catches something or whether the person just needs a break, that's the issue. And we're having that issue with many of our different departments, but it's so lean because you've got one full-time person and then you have basically high school students that are providing support, that's not succession. And so that's the issue where we have to, regardless of the hours, it doesn't much matter in terms of the succession planning. That's why we need the extra person. So.
Well, that was our discussion last summer, Doug, when we came up with a recommendation for a second full-time person. Primarily that, to have backup that has been here for, what, close to 40 years. And,
Longer than I've been alive.
and, you know, it's exactly that. I mean, it's that plus. I mean, you know, it'd be great if we could relieve some of the pressure on the guys here so that we don't have 5, 6 lanes wide, you know, people running in and around cars and trucks. We're lucky nobody's been severely hurt, you know, over the years. I mean, it's controlled chaos out there, really.
Well, that's why we talked about the new area, you know, and putting a more controlled design just up front, you know, you got so many lanes and that's it, you know.
Right.
And you got no latitude to come in all different directions.
And I know that maybe is why Victor operates longer. They have one lane, one lane in, one lane out.
Well, that's, if we were going to do something, which we talked about many, many hours also, another transfer station at the eastern end of the property, you know, 2 lanes wide going in. We visited Manchester, well, most of us last summer. And yeah, I mean, how they make that work with just one lane going through there. The number of people they have in their town that access that, but they say extremely efficient. So, I mean, that is another option. We have socked away a good bit of money for building another transfer station. Sure, MRB would be very enthusiastic about designing for us. So,
Well, that last concept I came up basically was a 2-lane system,
Yeah.
so at least we'd have 2 lanes operate, you know, both sides. And, you know, so you don't have people crossing over.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I'm,
The
we
driving.
need 2 lanes.
Jim, have you ever just taken, for a couple weeks there, just tried doing cones just to
Yeah.
see if it helps at all?
Yeah, but here's what they do, they'll drive
Big
around,
overload.
they'll stop on the outside of the cones.
Yeah.
And then everybody else follows suit.
Yeah.
And then they go,
But like, have you ever like coned all the way in, you know, from the side, just made like a line of cones here and then pull them in this way, you know what I mean?
we
Like,
tried cone them, we tried
Yeah.
signs.
That's why
So-
when we go to the new area,
Yeah.
we just design it, we
Yeah.
build it, so there's no options. you
Yeah.
know,
we had, I don't know if you remember, Adeline, back when the pandemic first started,
yeah,
we had it all phoned off out there.
yeah,
Makes plowing a little difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like, when we, like I said, like, they did not want to wait. They're like, okay, we made a brush lane just for
yeah,
brush, so
I
people,
remember that. Yeah.
but they would take the brush lane, pull up, stop. Of course, now that's blocking. They don't want to wait in line to get rid of the trash.
And
Didn't
the
we
other-
adopt a policy that all new town board members have to go out there and check tags and direct traffic? I kind of remember that. So.
And the,
Oddly enough, I don't
You
remember.
guys, I gotta run. I'm sorry. Talk to you later.
All right, guys.
when we were building this building, and we
So-
were using the lower
It,
directional.
the
lane.
problem that caused was crossing traffic. So we were kind of doing counter, and what was happening was is would people stop or yield to let someone come through?
Oh, because they were coming from here and merging in, and they're
Richard,
coming from this side.
yeah, it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
so,
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
wasn't-
yeah. Okay.
it got by, then we had to make them go counterclockwise, so you know, you thought I took their first point. So, yeah, well, I
Yeah.
would not encourage out there talking to Peter.
Yeah.
Flat out ruthless.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well, I've, as you know, hung out there quite a
you know,
bit,
it's
so I've
Well,
seen
not
plenty of
over by
things. so.
Well, when we tried to get the orange hang tags out there, we had several stations set up out there. Was it last year?
last spring.
Jim produced the 10 most commonly used phrases by people.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that.
There, I think 9 of them were things you can't say in public.
Right.
What, because you've read the orange tank tags?
People were
Because
slow
we
down.
questioned that.
People want to get in, get out.
Yeah.
We were doing permit enforcement. If you didn't have a permit, you were funneled into a lane and required
Well, and we know just from hanging out there, how many people we've seen go through that are not town Canandaigua residents.
So,
And that's when we first started talking about the transfer station, we sat down and we made a long list of all the things that were issues that we wanted to resolve. And that we keep circling back around to them, permit enforcement, traffic, safety issues, extended hours. But within our current system, you know, Jim and I talk about this a lot, if there was an easy solution, we
Yeah.
would have found it. But we just keep coming back around to it, and unfortunately, with the current way things are set up out there just really aren't great solutions.
now,
We talked about RFID tags
Mhm.
for cars.
Like a car wash. or
Yeah,
the-
you know, when ours coming down, but you'd have people lined up to the bike racks. I mean, it's
And
just,
what about the plow trucks? You know,
you know, the thing we have going for us in terms of trying to ferret out people that aren't town residents is that. That will, if he doesn't see the tag, or if he knows everybody who comes in there. If he sees somebody he doesn't know, he will go over and ask them where they live. From your license. And if you don't live in town, you have to leave.
and if that'll be knows or not, but like Canandaigua zip code covers 5 towns.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
You gotta have and the 4 letters in the address to be city or town.
yeah, but they're like, I love the town.
Yeah.
Yeah. true.
Bristol.
Yeah.
Right.
And when people don't necessarily actually even know
No.
necessarily where they're living, and they don't get the city town difference and they don't.
So, I mean, I know the landfill is a big discussion in 6 years, who knows what's gonna happen, but we could talk to transfer station for years.
Mhm. Where's the intent to build it? Just right
We bought the
down
land
here.
over here a couple of
Yeah.
years ago.
This Scrub Run over there.
See where all there's a lot of material dumped down.
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I
That area.
Do we
It has to
own
be
all the
built
way
up.
to 5 and 20 there? Is that Dave Sauter?
We own Dave Sauter's land.
Okay.
One of the things out of that new concept we came up with was, you know, just 2 lanes, and it'd be strictly 2 lanes, but also you got card readers, so if you don't have a approved card, then you're just wasting your time. So you can't dump it, recycle or trash.
And this isn't, like, there's no damage to the soil, it's all gone into containers, correct? So it's not like what's it called?
All of our leachate goes down to the stormwater pond, maybe, so.
Okay. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, it's all DEC.
Ground storm, that's what I
permitted.
think, it's not a ground fill or anything, right? It's just kind of.
Contain.
No, it's part of our Part 360 permit.
Okay.
Yeah, the DEC,
We're-
like,
we're
does
permitted.
regional
We're
inspections
permitted
and
facility,
all.
yeah.
Yeah, they stop by once or twice a year. just to-
No, my question, we wouldn't be creating a new site that's in some way damaging soil and water.
No,
That's
anything
what
impervious would then go to a
That's what,
stormwater facility like we have now.
Yeah. that's all. my
Yeah.
question, so.
I mean, I don't know, think about the hours.
Well, you gotta consider what you're gonna do when that's out.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, it's up to you. That's your decision.
Well, I think for now, we keep the hours where they're at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
the
mean,
person.
Yeah, well,
I think if you wanna bring the person in, you know, the town board authorized that position and that pay rate. You know, if you have somebody you wanna bring in and start that person learning the process out there, you pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, I mean, figure out your succession plan and whatever else first with that person, and then see what you got, and what kind, if you want to add out, you know, that would be my suggestion, that's before you change it, so.
still think we need a day during a week somehow, some way.
You're
What
trying to
about-
reduce the amount of people coming on
Coming,
Saturday, Sunday,
yeah.
you're saying?
Well, but you're throwing on what days? You're throwing right now on
Or Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wednesday?
Wednesday evening, Saturday and Sunday mornings, a total of 4 hours each day for a total of 12 hours per week.
You don't think just trying to do a little
What if
bit of
you-
extra hours would help?
What if you don't, what if
We
you
run
don't,
into the city issue on Saturday.
Saturday.
What time did it come on Saturday?
They start at 1.
One.
But
Well,
we
it's-
need,
it would seem like
Full
Tuesday,
hours.
Thursday would allow you to haul Friday, so that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
ready for the weekend.
or what about the highway guys? might not be into this, but what if they worked Tuesday through Friday in the summer? And you were open all day Mondays?
Well, the problem with that is then the other towns who are off are working on Monday, that's one less day we get them to help us on trucking and
Okay,
There-
but other towns do
so,
Mondays
yeah.
through Thursday.
everybody does Monday through Thursday.
Ah.
That
What-
wouldn't change.
Is there a
Okay.
significant amount of traffic change summer, winter here for the town?
Winter time, it slows down about 6:30.
Okay.
So like that
The lights,
4 to
when the-
6:30
when the
will be,
lights turn.
Wednesday evenings are much quieter during the winter versus the summer.
Yeah.
And we,
Everybody's here at 4.
yeah,
yeah, everybody's here at 3:30 too.
Well, yeah.
Between 3 and 3:30.
Yeah.
And it opens before 4 o'clock. That always opens.
we just don't open at this people are here.
Well, then that, I mean, that's part of your answer right there.
It
Yeah,
is,
you
but
open a
let's say we
little
go to
earlier on
3,
Wednesday.
and they start showing up at 2, 2:30, you know, like,
But I mean, so that, I guess that's the question, you know, we're gonna run into circles all the time. Do we follow demand? Do we follow what works for our towns, you know, available hours? We gotta kind of pick one or the other to lean on more, you know, so if you've got people demanding an earlier opening, then I said,
the weekends, I can see start at 7.
yeah,
Okay, not 8, I can see 7. And I can see us closing earlier in the winter on Wednesdays,
yeah, I can see that too.
you know, so the thing is, where do we, how do we make up that time difference between the two, so.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, and even though there may be a demand to open on Wednesdays, it really becomes a safety issue with our drivers, you know,
Yeah.
especially if we have the stone gate open and they're going down to dump stone, or they've got the loader and they're loading things and residents are trying to get in there. It becomes a major.
And they're working
major
till 4,
safety issue.
right?
Yeah, we're here 6 to 4:30.
Okay.
Well, I think really is, we could sit here and talk about this all day.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Not advocating that at all. But I think you two are the closest to it, closer than the rest of us use the system.
Yeah.
You operate the system, so whatever days you feel we should be open, what hours. I think
I would strongly
you make
encourage
the recommendation.
keeping Saturday, Sunday as all, that would be my personal
It's
recommendation.
the crab staggering.
Anything other than that? I think
Day
we're
off.
good.
I wonder if the city would be open to switching to Sundays, so we could have a longer Saturday hour, Sunday mornings,
It's like,
and then have city residents come Sunday, 1 to 4 instead of Saturday. But
it's
that
possible.
we would have to renegotiate our shared services agreement.
Yeah, not to belabor this, but what's the city? Longer term, the city would like more hours now.
Yep.
And, it just compounds our problem working with the city. But going forward, what the county may or may not recommend, God knows what they're gonna do. You ain't talking. We go to a separate transfer station. The city has expressed a willingness to help fund something like that. But what the county may or may not come back with after their 75-page or 72-page report that they paid to put together and then have them follow it up on it. We don't know. I mean, the county operates a landfill. What's going to happen after 2028? We've been asking that question for years, at least as long as you've been here. It's just a mystery. Last year's story was, well, it's an election year and all the supervisors are up. Nobody wants to make a move. I don't know if you've seen this report, but the report talks about combining towns, so that maybe one town collects brush for 3 different towns. Moving things around, and none of the supervisors endorsed that. They all said not in my town, so trying to get them on the same page to give guidance to the towns, villages, and cities, to the county, frustrating at best.
Yeah.
So that's where we have to lean on Jared to try and price on moves from the county. But I defer to you two. As far as timing, bring some person in, it's probably the sooner the better.
What is this, excuse me for not knowing, but what is the city doing in the afternoon on Saturdays?
They collect C and D, so
Okay.
their residents come
Anything you
here.
can't put at your curb in the city.
Okay,
We have an agreement to to collect here at the transfer station.
That's
So they can bring electronics, bulky items like lumber, furniture. A couple of years ago, we expanded it, they can bring food waste for composting.
Yeah.
If they have large amounts of like cardboard moving boxes or something, we accept those.
Do they no longer have a transfer facility? Because that one, yeah, they closed that one that was out on, our grass
The only thing
facility.
they do out there is just the brush.
Okay,
So it's only things you can't purchase.
and then they're just hauling directly from their curbs to the dump. Okay, got it.
Yeah, we charge, they pay their own tipping fees. We charge for rental, labor, equipment.
It's a blank facility, we call it a facility use.
Yeah,
That's negotiated through our shared services department.
Well, that could be part of the reason why some of them are coming here our hours and dumping their stuff
Oh,
too,
sure.
because they feel like it's theirs too, so.
Okay. Let's move on.
okay.
Talk about sanitary sewer. County Road 28.
Yep, that's what, I think I sent another email this morning just to kind of check on. Cause
Oh,
Scott,
to,
yeah, to the county, cause like Scott had replied, you know, whatever, 3 weeks ago with all the information that they had wanted. And there wasn't anything back from any from the county, so I just sent a friendly reminder of, hey, let me know if you received this. And I think really what we're looking for right now is direction from those guys, so we're at a flow monitor.
Where are you, excuse my ignorance on the project, where on 28 are you talking about?
we're starting at Parkside Drive,
Okay.
and continue north to Emerson Road.
Captures like the triangle right
And then
there.
the triangle, Risser Road.
You're on for 20 minutes, kind of
So
along.
that's right, just here.
Side of warm up still.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that's. Yeah, we're at one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's nothing new.
yeah, nothing, I got, you know, let me see if they respond. I mean, the way I worded my email, it's kind of like more of a, yeah, I should have responded by now, kind of email to them. He just said that they received it and they'll review it and get back to me in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Oh, they got it.
With a couple of weeks, they'll have had it for at least 5 weeks.
Well, maybe we can expect an answer by summertime.
What are you trying to do? You just put into the sewer, you're trying to figure out?
Well, because the county runs the sewer district,
Mhm.
so we're trying to do a town sewer extension, but it'll be
Okay.
obviously operated and maintained by the county. But we got to get into their sewer system, so we kind of have to. The whole thing is I'm trying to get the kind of the rules of the game from the county. The problem is the county doesn't really know they don't really have rules just yet. They don't have design standards. They don't, there's just a lot of stuff that's.
Yeah.
That's I guess it's been always semi loose for these guys. But I'm just trying to get enough definition so we can reasonably talk to the residents and be like, okay, we anticipate the cost of sewer would be, X dollars.
Where is it ending right now?
It's right here, Parkside Drive.
Well, the force main would tie into the end of Parkside Drive. At least that's the closest location. But it was
So they're
it was
all
sewer,
all
everything in
sewer
there.
here.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole stretch is not on sewer.
Go back to the sewer master plan that was developed, what, 2016?
Yeah.
The top 3 areas that were cited in that report for sewer addition were the Cheshire, Hamlet, Cheshire, Grandview Park area over on the eastern side of town, and County Road 28. Those are the top 3. Cheshire, we went through quite a series of iterations and then meetings, and just proved to be too costly for them. Same with Grandview Park. People all said, no, we can't afford it. So we went down to number 3 on the West County Road 28. And the number of parcels out there,
It's in the MU.
it looks like it probably, and the application of some of the ARPA funding, or some or all of it, would, help defray some of the costs and make it much more affordable. So, but trying to get at what that cost would be to the individual has been difficult, because working with Ontario County Sewer is extremely difficult, always has been. Talk to anybody that's doing any of the sewer.
Oh, I've heard that.
County, it's just a real problem. So until we get an answer on that, Greg can't put together not to the penny, but a rough estimate of what cost would be.
Yeah,
So that we could then sit down with people and say, what do you think? Now, backing up back to Cheshire, the big complaint, big problem there was the cost was gonna be about $1,800 a year. And that was with about $1 million grant from CDBG. Yep, yeah. And so now we should be able to qualify for that. Well, one of the ways we qualify for that grant was based on income survey.
Yeah. I mean,
All that stuff.
Yeah.
We would have to go back through that process, but Sarah sent out a survey to people, and we got back with a
54%,
fraction,
yeah.
of people who 50-50. So we're at that fundraiser last fall out there. What's his name? The pastor at the church out there, Connor, yeah. That nobody wants it. Well, I've talked with Fred. Good now, Fred said, no, why?
Yeah, absolutely.
So where are we? So we want to go back out to the people in Cheshire, because we made that offer first. And if we apply some of the ARPA funding, we cut that cost dramatically. But
So this is a backup essentially. If
So,
that's not what we do.
the plan right now is Sarah's setting up to have another meeting early February. And I'm not exactly sure where she hasn't been in this year.
I'm in the same email
Yeah.
group with you.
Yeah,
I know what you're
so-
talking about, yeah.
We're just waiting at it.
Yeah.
So, but we're also waiting in Ontario County.
Yeah.
So at this point, there's really,
How long is this? Do you know? Is that like a
The
mile?
length.
Yeah,
It's about, well, by the time you add it all together,
looks like about a mile.
This is 1 to 500, so.
Hey, Jerry, I talked to the guy who owns the gas station there at the,
Who's
the
that?
Cheshire station stuff. He says he's going for it. He's
Trying to get it.
This is
Oh,
trying to get people into it.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, it's.
yeah, I
it's
mean,
nice.
that's
Yeah,
why
he lives,
yeah. There's
he's on this corner.
there's
Just shy of a
strong
mile.
opinions on both sides out there, but
You gotta be careful with the optics on that one.
make a little more shot with them.
Yeah, I think that's what
It's
we're
a
gonna
good
do.
spot though,
Oh, yeah, that way.
because that's the age of the homes.
Yeah.
What's it, like, good location.
The other thing is we have more assessed value to work with out here at 28. So that helps bring the cost down also.
Yeah, if you were trying to sewer an area that was like, had like, like this, like
Yes,
the bigger properties,
yes.
it gets really hard
Yes.
to make it
understand.
affordable.
Well, plus we don't want to sewer these areas because we don't want them to encourage development. This is already a pretty well-developed strip too, so.
Right. And it's, it's wrapping around that kind of uptown area anyway,
It's
so.
going around uptown, it's right by the high school, it's gonna get developed from all those, people wanna live in those areas, I mean, great place to live, right, Jen?
Not the corners so much.
Emerson is not.
That's what I was just
I'll
saying,
be glad, I'll be glad when Marie's right.
I was gonna say, we
Or
gotta-
sell that.
we gotta watch for the optics on this, that we go at least 1 or 2 houses past your house.
Sure.
All right, well, come to the end of the list here. A lot of discussion with the same things we talked about in the past, but we should have added in, especially in the Science Park community choice area. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Made that trip down here just to say, haven't heard anything from the county.
Well, I did, I got some back though.
Ah.
You did actually
Haven't heard
respond.
any news.
Is it-
Right, yeah, there's no new news.
Okay, I'll get to you.
Yeah.
You wanna throw me my map back?
Oh, thank you for having that,
Yeah,
appreciate that.
I carry it around with me,
It's for fun.
I think they
Yeah, I'll
just
usually
I
bring it there.
hold right onto it, so. I don't know, what is the timing on, not to beat the death, we've got we did this project, the highway department, we did the water project. How far out do you think we need to get before we take on something like the transfer station? We should be able to get some funding out of it, but one of the problems is you don't wanna just keeping things on to people. What's a reasonable time frame we could look at? Cause I hate talking about the same thing and not doing anything.
Yeah, that horse is really gonna beat that. Well, hopefully we'd be able to get something out of the county. If we don't get it out of the county, I was thinking the first half of this year, we ought to just go ahead with our own plan.
So maybe
Talk to the city more about what their potential increase in usage over time might be, or, right? But we have to do what's right for the residents of the town first. The city, yeah, if we can accommodate them some way, they can help us out, okay, but our residents have to be in the forefront, so. I would think that maybe now the county may have some inclination to make some kind of statements or. But I'm not.
So maybe the second half of the year, really try to get serious.
Yeah, we'll also be looking at, we put, Doug's not under now, but, we had at least $500,000 stacked away for the transfer station. And we'll be dealing with, our
Inflation.
fund balance.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of money that we didn't spend last year. We don't know what fourth quarter sales tax results are yet, but should be finding out within the next week or so. But probably going to be more money that we have to put someplace. And putting it towards this would be one of the places I would recommend as one. And water meters, roads, and other infrastructure. But we would have the money to be able to go out. Maybe with a little help from the city and do it. I mean, we have, generally speaking, a plan in mind. That, right, elevations and everything, but, we know what we want.
Yeah, I think that concept thing I came up with, we can hand that off and develop the details.
No, it's already got it perfect, yeah.
My biggest concern is the materials costs are so high right now. I'm worried that they're a little artificially inflated for a
Well,
temporary period.
I don't think
They are, but the index, the consumer indexing on all these
Yeah.
materials, they're all still heading the wrong
Yeah,
direction.
I
So
know.
it's like, I don't know, Jim's seen this before too, right? Like when pipe prices go up, like it takes a real long time for them to recede. We had a spike in pipe prices back in like the middle 2000s. And I remember it took a couple of years for it to kind of return
Yeah.
back to normal. The problem that we're going to run into, and this is what I see, is that
Backed up.
the feds are going to dump a bunch of money into infrastructure at a time when the supply is so short. It's just going to keep aggravating the
Yeah,
problem
yeah.
because demand is far outpassing the supply.
And the employees. It's
Right. So, I mean, refineries are not at 100%, which means the pipe manufacturers are not at 100% because they, bulk what they rely on is the resin that comes from the refineries. So if the refineries aren't at 100%, they can't run at 100% capacity. And all the demand that's been since 2020 into 22, it's so far beyond what their capacity is.
prices aren't going to come down.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not.
I mean,
We'll be fortunate if they don't increase too much more.
Yeah.
But to come up with a plan, what's the design we can do when we
Right.
send it out for bid.
Yeah, we can time that. Yeah.
Well, and I think the beauty of the plan that we had talked about too is there was a lot of flexibility. Jim and I were just talking about this yesterday. Similar to the system that Manchester used with the cards, is that there's flexibility there where if we want to have city and town residents using the facility at the same time,
Yeah.
we're able to track that.
Yeah.
Or, if we want to start our residents by giving them X amount of pounds per year at no cost, we can start phasing in pricing for
Right.
different structures. And once, things change in 2028, you know, we have the ability to change that fee schedule with just a town board meeting. So if all of a sudden costs are skyrocketing and we need to make adjustments, there was just a lot of flexibility in that system, even though we have so many unknowns. You know, it seemed like that system has adaptability built into it that our current infrastructure does not.
I'd like to see if you could send me whatever you have for a plan, so I've got some familiarity with it and not coming in. Speaking you us.
Okay, we're done.
All right.
Thanks,
Sounds good.
Chuck.
Good
Yeah,
try.
I have
Hi, Chuck.
all the way